Welcome back into BKL Nightly. I'm your host for the evening, Rachel Leiber. Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday ahead of the Bills' Week 9 matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, a very highly anticipated one. The Chiefs enter with a 5-3 record. The Bills 5-2, coming off their bye week 2 weeks ago. Chiefs bye week, I believe, is week 10. So after this game, they'll have their week off. But we're here to tell you everything you need to know ahead of the game. We've got some more stuff coming to you tomorrow. Yesterday, Thad and Carl Jones talked about some things, but I'm here for the night, and I got some updates out of Orchard Park today. First, we got Always Talk Injuries. It's how we always start here on our Wednesdays. Did not practice today. There are a few guys who did not practice today. Starting with Josh Palmer. He is still kind of nursing that ankle and knee injury. He was out all of last week, obviously did not play on Sunday against Carolina. So he, again, did not practice today. We don't have a timeline on his return. Also not practicing was Daquan Jones with a calf injury. He also did not play against Carolina on Sunday. And then Ray Davis was added to the injury report. Might be the first time he's been on the injury report all year. He's had a pretty healthy year, but he was out with illness. So hopefully nothing too serious to sideline him for too long, and hopefully he is good to go for this Sunday. All right, we got some more positive injury updates now. Let's get away from the guys who didn't practice. Let's talk about the guys who did. Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano both practiced in full today. They were both limited last week. Terrell Bernard was active for the game on Sunday against Carolina, but did not see the field. He's been dealing with an ankle injury. And Matt Milano was inactive for the Panthers game. Obviously did not play. He's been dealing with that pectoral injury that he re-aggravated a few weeks ago. It's caused him to miss several games this season, but they were both in full today. So that means they're both looking like they'll be in some good shape for this game against the Chiefs on Sunday. We'll obviously keep you updated with anything that comes with those guys, but for now they're looking healthy and good to go. All right, we got a few more injuries out of the Bills practice facility today. Matt Prater, Bills kicker, was limited with a calf injury to his kicking leg, so a little bit concerning, but he was limited and did practice a little bit today, so that is at least better than the did not practice that some of these guys had today. We've also got Shaq Thompson was also limited today. He has a hamstring injury. And then on veteran rest, Joey Bosa and Jordan Phillips were both limited today, but just for vet rest reasons. That's a tongue twister. Vet rest reasons. You got to give the guys, the older guys, the veterans, some time to get back to it, especially off of a beating that they put on Carolina on a Sunday. All right, so this Carolina game, the Bills took a much needed, very, very big win, but it was a game that was a lot of a run game for the Bills offense. The passing game was not as strong. We know James Cook had quite the day for James Cook, 216 rushing yards, while the passing game, the receiving group as a whole only had, I believe, 185 receiving yards as a unit. So this passing game has kind of been the point of, maybe an issue in the Bills offense. We know that this everybody eats mentality has not really been holding true this season. Not everybody's been eating. There hasn't really been, anybody that has completely stood out. Khalil Shakir has been doing, consistent as he did last year. But other than that, we don't have any receivers that have really come to the forefront, or even several with this everybody eats mentality. So like I said, this, lack of passing game, these passing struggles have been a topic of conversation for the Bills. And it was again today. The Bills, at the Bills practice, the media asked Josh Allen about these passing struggles and how he kind of avoids, pressing and trying to force completions and going out of his way to fix these issues on the field.
Go out there and whatever Joe calls, just try to execute it as high level as I can. Whether that calls for taking shots or whether that calls for checking it down, finding the open guy. That's I guess the name of the game of the quarterback position is just, again, finding completions, getting into our guys, and letting them make some plays for us.
Another thing about Josh Allen is he might not have had a great game. I think his passing yards were maybe the second lowest he's had this season. I think the first lowest he threw against the Jets. But regardless, there's nothing to really worry about with Josh Allen. It does come to a point where maybe later in the season, obviously getting closer to the playoffs, this could be a point where the Bills, this could be what holds the Bills back from making a playoff run. But for now, I'm not too concerned about it. It's Josh Allen, and he's the MVP of the league, and I think the Bills will figure it out. All right, so now we got to talk about the Chiefs a little bit. The Chiefs have been on quite the run lately. Started the year not great, and then doing what Kansas City is normally doing and expected to do. So their receiver, Rashee Rice, he was suspended the first 6 games of the season for his involvement in a multi-vehicle car crash. Just returned October 19th in Week 7. And since he's been back, his presence has been felt. The Chiefs' offense has been picking up. And so today, Thad Brown was out in Orchard Park, got to talk to some of the Bills players about what Rice brings to the table, how they game plan around him, and just really what he's done for this Chiefs offense in the last 2 weeks.
The Chiefs got wide receiver Rashee Rice back from a 6-game suspension 2 weeks ago, and it's worked out okay. Rice has 16 receptions and 3 touchdowns in just 2 games, 2 of the Chiefs' top 3 offensive performances so far this year. The Bills on Wednesday talked about what a pain in the neck Rice can be. Shaq Thompson sees a comparison to a different, very talented receiver of a bit longer pedigree.
Shoot, if I was over there, I'll use him too. You know what I mean? He's a bigger, thicker wide receiver, you know, who can run, who has speed, you know. You can put him anywhere, running back, put him at wide receiver, you know. It kind of reminds me of a DJ Moore when I was in Carolina. You just move a guy like that around. You want to give him the ball, whether it's running or passing.
A very dynamic player, you know, getting the ball in reverses and jet sweeps, out in open space, you know, just a very dynamic player.
He's a highly targeted receiver. There's somebody that, you know, he kind of does it all for him, and they want to get him the ball. So somebody that, you know, makes a difference seeing him on film rather than seeing him not on film.
Just the explosiveness of their offense. Obviously, they got guys that take the top off, but, you know, especially with him, you know, run after the catch type of guy, a guy that they feature, you know, in their offense. So, you know, he's a weapon, and you know they've used him well the last few weeks. So it'll be a challenge for us.
Rookie Max Hairston will get his first taste of the Bills-Chiefs rivalry on Sunday. So on Wednesday, he got a question about how much he's looking forward to facing Patrick Mahomes. But Hairston has his bar set a bit higher. The opportunity to pick off Patrick Mahomes, that's all I'm looking forward to, Hairston said. I'm not going to make it bigger than what it is. Just go out there and play ball.
Pretty cool mindset there from Max Hairston, you know, coming into his second game, obviously his first game ever against the Chiefs as a rookie, and just cool stuff to see that he is looking for the opportunity to get an interception. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll see a Hairston interception, his first career pick off of Patrick Mahomes. That'd be pretty fun for Bills fans to witness. All right, it is now time for our weekly roundtable segment. Thad Brown, Josh Reed, and Carl Jones out in Orchard Park talk everything you need to know about this upcoming game. They talked a lot about Rice, his return, what he's done for the Chiefs, what that means for the Bills defense, and also talked a little bit about Ed Oliver, who is on injured reserve. It was announced earlier this week that he tore his bicep in the game against the Panthers. So a lot of things to discuss. So here's the 3 of them. I'll let them take it away.
Welcome to the BKL Nightly Roundtable. I'm Thad Brown, joined as always by Josh Reed, Carl Jones. Bills and Chiefs week, but the Bills guys missing a very important piece now on defense. Ed Oliver is injured. If you were in the room with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane as you formulate a plan for how you're going to address this absence, what would you do? And it doesn't have to be a trade. I'm going to let you have the power to magically bestow improvement upon some other defensive, offensive player. Where would you go to find whatever the Bills have lost with that Oliver the rest of the season?
I would find out if anybody in the room has Aaron Donald's phone number and see if he's just like all the way retired. Is there like a 3% chance? But no, in all seriousness, I think it comes down to Deion Walker continuing to develop, how close they think TJ Sanders is to returning from his injury. I think he's missed 2 of the 4 games that he has to miss already. And outside of that, I do think that you can trade for somebody, and defensive tackles, a rotational defensive tackle, you're not going to get at Oliver. That style, that type, that level of player. But you can get a rotational piece. Somebody that we talked about earlier today was Harrison Phillips, a guy who knows the system, plays for the Jets, and it probably wouldn't cost you a ton of draft capital.
They brought back all the old heads. Might as well see what Kyle Williams is doing. I mean, see if he can still play defensive tackle. I think I like your approach, though. Like, you're not going to get a quality, high upper-end defensive tackle at this point. And even if you did try to seek that guy out, well, next year that's blocking the development of a TJ Sanders or a Deion Walker when you look 2-3 years down the line. I think you just try to shore up the bottom of the room to make sure that for majority of the game you don't have a liability out there. So whether it is a Harrison Phillips or any other guy that's maybe at the bottom of the depth chart or the second or third D tackle in the other rooms, that's how you fix this, because there's nothing you can do about it. Ed Oliver is a Pro Bowl caliber player. You're going to be without him. You just got to make sure that the bottom doesn't fall out.
I think I like where you guys are going with this, and you and I talked a little bit on Let's Talk Ball yesterday. There's a part of me that wants to say, damn the torpedoes, let's find 7 receivers, and we're going to score 50 points a game, because I don't know if we can count on the defense to do better than that. But I think the bottom line is this approach has to be multi-pronged. You can't go out and trade for one guy. It has to be making a trade to make the floor better. It has to be Deion Walker improving. It might have to be Max Hairston stepping in and being a better cover man, because you're not going to get the pressure. It has to be, I think, more than one solution to make up for a guy of this caliber.
See if Max Hairston can also line up a D tackle. Put 100 pounds on that boy. See what happens.
That would be a unique and original idea that I'll make sure to bring to Sean McDermott in a little while. Speaking of Sean McDermott, there was a lot of talk since the game after Carolina about who's in charge of the defense. Sean McDermott said it was now collaborative. Remember, now 2 weeks ago, he got a question directly after the Atlanta game about whether he would consider taking play calling away from Bobby Babich, and flatly said no. Now it's collaborative. I don't know if it really matters who's in charge. I think both Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott have shown they can do the job. But give me your reaction to where this has stood, and your reaction to the coach's reaction to the conversation that was had Monday and Tuesday about it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really stood out on the TV screen was when Sean starts covering up his mouth with the play card sheet. I think that's when you go, oh, what's going on here? I had a chance to talk to Hall of Fame head coach Bill Cowher earlier in the week, and I asked him specifically about this, about young Bobby Babich as the DC. This is Sean McDermott's defense. You know, where does that lie? How tough is it to walk that tightrope? And Bill Cowher said, look, it's not. Sean reminds me a lot of myself, him talking about Bill Cowher, talking about himself there. He said that when he was the head coach of the Steelers, often when the offense was on the field, he would get with the defensive coordinator, Dick LeBeau, and they would go over, hey, this is some of the stuff that we need to be worked. Don't forget what we worked on during the week. Constant communication. He said it was the opposite with Ken Wisenhunt when the defense was on the field. He said that it doesn't surprise him at all. And he said, in fact, he'd be concerned if Sean wasn't this interactive with Bobby Babich.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Based off of how the defense has looked the first part of this season, you would hope a defensive-minded head coach would have some input and have his hand somewhere involved. I know this is his defense still at his core, but the fact that he's now willing to allow Bobby Babich to drown and let this defense just to fall out, I'm encouraged at the fact that he's trying to figure out any solution, whatever it may be, to fix this defense, because he knows they have to improve in order to be playing deep into January and February.
I hear all that from both you guys, but 2 points about that. Number one, it's easy to talk to your offensive coordinator when the defense is on the field. But when the defense is on the field and it's a 2-minute drill and at the end of a half and Pat Mahomes has got 3rd and 4 in a tie game, someone's got to be making the call. You don't have time, I would think, for an excessive, collaboration in terms of what Sean McDermott is doing with his defensive coordinator. The other part of it, too, is, and I don't know if this really matters, but the fan point of view, the people out there that are going to be skeptical of Sean McDermott are going to say, well, when the defense looked bad and Bijan Robinson ran for, 1,000 yards in a new car, you at that point said, I'm not going to take play calling away from Bobby Babich. Now when the defense gives up 9 and has turnovers and sacks, now it's collaborative. I don't know if, again, it really matters, but someone has got to be in charge. And if you take that away from Bobby Babich, how easily can you give that back to him, if that's even happened so far?
Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting that Bill Cowher brought up was what we don't know is what's being said behind the sheet. It could just be, hey, don't forget, we worked on this, X, Y, and Z during the week. It may not be, hey, call this play, or hey, I'm calling this play. And that's something that, quite frankly, we're not going to know.
And I don't have a problem if Sean McDermott wants to say, on this play, call this. Mm-hmm. But did Bill Cowher ever, in a press conference, say that me and Ken Wisenhunt are running the offense collaboratively?
No. I would assume he did, and I don't know, but I would assume that he did.
Yeah.
I don't think that is collaborative. I think he's just saying that to us. I think that he's calling the plays. I think that he is saying, like, hey, this is my defense at this point. I understand that's not what he said, but in my opinion, based off the tea leaves, I think that's where they're at.
And maybe it's his defense on 3rd and 5, and not his defense when it's 2nd and 4 and you're up by 30. It might be situationally.
There are teams that do that. I know that happens a lot in college, not as much in the NFL, but that could be a thing.
All right, one more thing I want to talk about here with this game coming up against the Chiefs, and it seems like the Pat Mahomes 2018, we're going to put up 50 offenses back. And look, I don't think it's a shock when you consider Xavier Worthy fully healthy, mostly, Rashee Rice back from suspension. But still, are you guys surprised how quickly and how easily it seems like Kansas City fell right back into being a great offense?
I'm not surprised. Because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
Just the same reason.
The same quarterback who struggled the last 2 years, though.
I know, but it's the same reason why I think we all go, wow, this passing game for the Bills stinks right now. But at the end of the day, they have Josh Allen. So I don't think any of us would be surprised if the next 3 games he doesn't go out and rattle off huge stat games and they win all 3, and we're right back to that's the MVP. What happened? Now, who knows? I mean, maybe it was just a matchup thing. You see it all the time. Styles make fights. And, I mean, I think that's one of the big things here. In this game in particular, the matchup I cannot wait to see. Give me multiple times where I got Max Hairston versus Xavier Worthy. 2 of the fastest guys in the NFL matched up. Please give me that multiple times.
You toxic. You just want to see the Twitter.
I stole the DB talk right from underneath.
No, but I'm saying you toxic. You just want to see Twitter blow up about that discourse right there. I'm not shocked, though, because the 2 things that have held back that Chiefs held it back. I mean, they've still been great, but, like, limit their ceiling. Their left tackle problem has been atrocious the past 2 years. Well, they finally rectified it with Josh Simmons, and even he's out, but Jalen Moore has stepped in and done an admirable job there. And then their receivers haven't been great either. Well, they're all healthy for the first time. I think last week was the first time that Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice have played in a game together. I am not shocked that the offense is humming. Think back to even 2 years ago when they did win the Super Bowl. It was Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the field. He couldn't play here in Buffalo. So I think, all jokes aside, I'm not too shocked that finally the problems are rectified and they're humming again.
I don't think shock is the right word. I'm a little like, wow, that really wasn't that hard, was it? I mean, and you're right, it's Patrick Mahomes. I should expect that. We should expect that. But I think as good as they've been to where it looks like they're just going to roll. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I think right now is the #1 fantasy quarterback in the NFL, which going into the year, most people were drafting him late in the 8th, 9th quarterback. Didn't think he was that kind of guy. So a little bit of surprise, but.
Well, because they were winning with defense.
Exactly.
Right? That was a crazy conversation. Chiefs are winning because of their defense. Meanwhile, Mahomes is still back there, and he's been unleashed.
The other part, too, is the defense might not be 100% of what it's been. They do have to score in some cases a little bit more. Good conversation today, fellas. Carl Jones, Josh Reed. I'm Thad Brown. Let's send it back to you.
All right, thank you, guys. We are going to take a quick break here. When I come back, we'll do our weekly mailbag segment. Thad Brown will answer some questions out in Orchard Park from you guys, the viewers. So, yeah, that'll be after a break. Stay with us. Welcome back to BKL Nightly. It is now time for our weekly mailbag segment. Thad Brown is out in Orchard Park. It is a big week for the Bills hosting Kansas City on Sunday. We've got some big questions as well, so we're going to get right into it, starting with ex-user Dan Freddy. He says, win or lose, do not put anything on tape the Chiefs can use against the Bills in January. It seems like a lot of Bills fans maybe could be okay with a loss this weekend, and then going into the playoffs, it's typically how it plays out for the Bills. Whoever doesn't win here might be getting the win in the playoffs. So, Thad, what are your thoughts on this user saying they don't want anything put on tape that the Chiefs could use in a postseason run?
It is funny that the Bills have played the Chiefs 4 times in the playoffs, and in each one of those times, they did beat Kansas City in the regular season. It even worked out with the Baltimore game last year, too, where the Bills lost to Baltimore in the regular season, then won in the playoffs. And there is a school of thought that when you lose that game, you're a little more driven, maybe a little better understand what you did wrong, and therefore can make fixes going into the next game. As for what Dan Freddy's talking about, I understand the sentiment about, look, we're going to see them again. Let's not put too much on tape. But whenever you're a player or a coach, you can't just assume you're going to get there. And look, generally in the AFC East, the Bills could assume they're going to win that division. Not this year. Drake May and the Patriots are very much a threat. So I don't know if you do ever want to go all out to throw everything on the table for any regular season game, but every single one of these games are things that the Bills do need, and not only to make the playoffs, but there's a potential that the winner of this game is the one that will host the AFC Championship or whenever they would meet in the playoffs. So there's a lot of reason for the Bills to do whatever they can to win this game like they would any other one. Now, look, if you're up 3 touchdowns or the game is out of hand, then for sure dial it back because there's an excellent chance you're going to see the Chiefs again later on. But although I think there's a fear about Kansas City doing what they've always done, which is figure things out and be better in the playoffs, this week is going to be all about this game, and it should be.
Now, we're obviously talking about this game, but looking back on last week, James Cook had his historic performance and rushing yards. And now Mike S. on Blue Sky wants to know about a different running back. He says, shouldn't Ray Davis be better? He's not adding much to this team, he thinks. And while he's not expecting him to be James Cook, it's a pretty big drop-off when he comes in. Do you think it's time for Gore or maybe even some other options?
I don't think the Bills want to look to somebody else to handle that third running back job. And look, I think Ray Davis, to be fair, probably when he's been in, has not been as good as fans or the Bills probably would have hoped or expected. I don't think he's been terrible either, to the point where you'd want to demote him or put someone else in that job. The bottom line is that James Cook and this run game is playing at such a high level, the Bills don't really want to put anyone else on the field. It just doesn't make sense to take Cook off because there are very few guys anywhere in the league that are playing at that level, let alone Buffalo's backup running back. So while this has not been the year I'm sure Ray Davis hoped for, I do think the way the running backs are being used makes a lot of sense.
Now, our final question here is an interesting one from ex-user Robert Plattick. Would you rather have Andy Reid and Josh Allen or Sean McDermott and Patrick Mahomes? That I'll let you give your thoughts first.
Yeah, this is a hard one. And I looked at this for quite a while. I took me a while to figure out where I would land. And I think at the end of the day, I would go Andy Reid and Josh Allen because I think the difference between the quarterbacks is smaller than the difference between the coaches. And this doesn't mean that Sean McDermott is a significantly or drastically worse coach than Andy Reid. But when you think about quarterbacks, I usually put Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, and the two guys pretty close. When it comes to coaches, look, Andy Reid's won multiple championships. Sean McDermott has not even gotten past the conference championship round. So those are big pieces of resume that I can't ignore. And remember, Andy Reid, even though he didn't win a Super Bowl when he was with the Eagles, he did go to one, and he went to more conference championships than Sean McDermott has with the Bills. So I think the drop-off from Reid to McDermott is greater than the quarterbacks, even though I will say this. When I concluded that, yep, I'd probably go Andy Reid and Josh Allen, my first thought was, but damn, it's going to be scary to go against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you. I think the distinguishing factor here are the coaches. And for me, I don't think you can pass up Andy Reid in this situation. I mean, he's one of the winningest coaches of all time. And between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you're getting a similar caliber quarterback. And still, Josh Allen's the MVP of the league. You pair him with Andy Reid. I think that's the way that I would go as well.
Yeah, especially right now. You know, you point out that Josh Allen is the MVP. Right this second, the level that the quarterbacks have played at is really close. If we had had this conversation maybe even 2 or 3 years ago, I might have said that Patrick Mahomes is playing at such a level that I'm just going to take him no matter what coach he's with. But right now, the way Josh Allen has continued to improve, winning the MVP last year, he's at a high enough level that I'm going to roll the dice going on the side opposite of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. We'll see, of course, on Sunday. Maybe the performance of these two quarterbacks will sway our opinions. But for now, I think we're on the same page. All right, that is going to wrap up our weekly mailbag segment. Of course, thank you, Thad. All right, you can each week send your questions to Thad Brown 7 to Thad at Thad Brown 7 on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and on the News 8 Facebook page. We'll try to get to him and see if Thad will give you all of his insight out in Orchard Park. All right, we've got one more thing to very quickly get into. As I mentioned earlier in the show, and as most Bills fans are aware, Ed Oliver is on injured reserve. That's a pretty big hit to the defense. He's been playing pretty phenomenal, might be a stretch of a word, but pretty great. He's been pretty great in the games that he's played, but he did have an ankle injury earlier in the year. Then he came back, and now he's got this torn bicep. So not good for the defensive tackle, but a lot of his teammates today, are rallying behind him and told Thad Brown over at the Bills practice facility just what they're doing to kind of fill in the gap and kind of their reactions to, their teammate being injured and what they're going to do to step up.
You don't just replace a guy like Ed, obviously, but, we have a system that, we all have a job to do and we all know what our job is. So, if somebody goes down, then like we say, man, the next man up. And that's a tough ask to be Ed, but at the end of the day, we just have to focus on doing our jobs.
If one of my brothers go down, I'm going to want to have the best game I can, to try and fill his shoes. But, we just trying to stay the course, stay with what we know, and, make plays, not chase them.
To make sure that, we're holding your standard, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And playing for yourself is, like you said, it's the next man up. You got to go out there and make sure there's no drop off. Like, you got to have that competitive edge to yourself. Like, it's our time now, I guess.
He's upset about it. Of course he's a player. He wants to be out there, but, I just try to tell them, hey, sit down, get right. If you want to just be okay, and come back, you good too. But we gonna hold it down for you.
Good mindset there from the D-line, losing one of their top guys, and we'll see what this D-line can do without him against a Kansas City offense that has certainly been rolling these past few weeks. All right, well, that is going to do it for tonight's BKL Nightly. Thank you so much for joining me. You can catch us here tomorrow. We will bring you our predictions a little bit more ahead of that Sunday game, kickoff at 4:25 at Highmark Stadium. But for now, for Thad Brown, for Josh Reed, for Carl Jones, I am Rachel Liber. Thank you so much for watching BKL Nightly.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.